I rise in support of amendments that serve to ensure the most vulnerable and isolated people in our communities are not cut off from employment, health services, education and leisure. I'll start with new clause 2, tabled by my honourable friend from Harrogate and Knaresborough, who's just returned, which would remove the start time from the use of disabled bus passes. Now, I must declare an interest as my own son George has one of these. It's a crucial element of helping young people with disabilities to gain their independence, and for teenagers and young adults with additional needs is a far more cost-effective option than providing costly and isolating taxis to access college and school. The bus pass that George and many of his classmates use doesn't allow us to use the pass on the way to school. In our case, that's 2 buses, 2 fares, but it does allow us to use it on the return. Now, while that causes parents like me frustration, for others it's a completely unaffordable situation and forces many of them to use the offered council taxis, something which is then crippling councils. For those able to drive, blue badges are not time restricted, so why should those on a bus pass be discriminated against? We know people with disabilities are less likely to be in employment, so anything to reduce barriers to work should be grasped by this government. When this was raised in an adjournment debate by my honourable friend from Harrogate and Knaresborough, the Minister pointed to the cost. But as this affects only disabled bus passes and not the whole concessionary bus pass scheme, it does only apply to 10% of passes. So cost-wise, it's actually fairly low. Now turning to Liberal Democrat new clauses 7, 16 and new clause 36 in the name of my honourable friend, the member from West Dorset, relating to young people. The very first motion I put to my party conference back in 2014 related to extending discounted bus fares for young people, a policy that made it into our following Lib Dem manifesto and has remained in some form ever since. I cited a case then that applies now of a young person from Beer Regis who secured an apprenticeship in Bournemouth. They were no longer eligible for a free bus pass to access the college course because for some reason, when the age of participation was increased, the age of bus travel was not, and had to take several buses each day to access their job. The cost of doing so took up such a large portion of their income, and the service to their village was so poor that they had to give up their apprenticeship. If we're going to make bus services sustainable into the future, it needs to be a genuine choice for young people, as an alternative to buying a car or a motorbike. Yeah. If we're going to deal with congestion, air quality and reach our net zero targets, we need public transport to be a real option for everyone. To achieve long-term change typically starts with young people. It makes sense. Young people are familiar with using buses for school, so extending discounts so that they have them as they start into the world of work or at higher education is most likely to deliver the long-term change that we need. And students from Purbeck School and Magna Academy all wrote to me confused about why they weren't eligible, even though they were now expected to stay at school. It feels like a clear oversight from a previous government and could be very easily fixed by this government. I also would like to support my neighbouring MP, the Honourable Member for Poole, in supporting the cap extension for school services. This seems incredibly unfair, and I've also been lobbied on that, particularly from families living in Merley, who are just about within the 3-mile window. Finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, on my village tour in the summer, whether in Beer Regis or Gaunt's Common, Shapwick or Hinton Martell, the #1 issue coming up was buses. Communities cut off from bus services cannot thrive. So I welcome Amendments 6, 7, 28, 29 and new clauses 4 and 15 that seek to ensure that these communities are considered, and whether they be via commercial services or community minibuses, ensuring small villages are not cut off. It seems ironic that British people always use the phrase, "you wait for a bus and then 2 come along." Well, for thousands of my constituents in Mid Dorset and North Poole villages, just one every so often would be nice. Yeah.